It is May 30th, and yes, there is a lot of news that is going on, including the second day of deliberation. So it looks like the jury is reviewing testimony because there are certain things that they wanted to review, and so they are doing that, and we'll see what happens as the second day or day two of Trump trial deliberations are continuing. I did see that yesterday that Trump was saying that even Mother Teresa couldn't get off on the charges that had been put against him and all along those lines. So it does seem like he's doing a little bit of media grandstanding and all along that kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and who he compares himself to this particular day. But he did say that not even Mother Teresa could beat the charges and all along those lines. So I guess he's expecting a guilty verdict, even though many here on the network are expecting a hung jury. And apparently for Trump's false record charges, prison is rare, but not unprecedented. So we'll see what happens in that regards and how things are going for Mr. Trump as he is continuing his presidential candidacy as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all goes and what happens in that regards. And apparently there's a major election in South Africa. That's right. There are elections not just here in the United States, but around the world. And ANC, which has been there in power for a number of years, is seen as losing their majority. And the DA and Zuma party are performing well. So it does look like there could be a historical rebuke for the party that was very much connected to Nelson Mandela. So definitely it looks like it could be a very big political shift in that part of the world, and maybe one of the biggest political shifts since apartheid. So we'll see how this all goes and how this plays out in the world opinion and all along those lines. And 14 pro-democracy activists were found guilty of subversion in Hong Kong's biggest national security case. So yes, even in an area like Hong Kong, there can be security issues as well. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space and all along those lines. So definitely we'll see some news in that regards, and it'll be quite interesting to see what folks think about a number of these issues that are going on in the world. Let's see about what else is taking place in the world. Apparently, Hong Kong, like I said, has convicted those democracy activists in the largest national security trial. And definitely there's something that's going on in that part of the world. And an Iceland volcano dramatically erupts again as streams of lava reach town's defensive wall. So definitely looks like there could be some trouble in terms of weather and Iceland. And a mayoral candidate in Mexico was assassinated at a campaign stop. So, a mayoral hopeful's murder in Mexico was captured on camera, and that apparently is the 23rd candidate that has been killed in that very troubled part of the world and all along those lines. And of course, we got the big Mexican elections that are taking place as well. So, that's going to be a very big issue, and we'll see which one of the women that are running will be in charge and all along those lines. So, that's definitely something that people will be paying attention to, just like it'll be paying attention to the Israeli military saying that it has control of a strategic Gaza land border with Egypt. So definitely that's something that's going on as Israeli forces have killed 53 people across an enclave. So definitely Rava offensive that Israel has launched apparently is drawing global outcry. So definitely that's something that we're seeing in the news as well. And apparently, Iran's supreme leader is thanking U.S. college students for standing on the right side of history. So I guess he's thinking that some of these folks are backing him. So he's definitely trying to go in that direction and using anti-Semitic trope. Khomeini welcomes U.S. student protesters to the resistance front. So he's praising the college students for their efforts and all along those lines. And there is pressure on Biden to let Ukraine strike Russia with U.S. weapons. So definitely there's some pressure to let Ukraine go ahead and launch these weapons against Russia. And definitely, apparently, Biden is weighing letting Ukraine do exactly that. So that is something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And coming back to Israel, Israel has reopened the Gaza food sales as Rafah raid has choked the aid in that area. So they are reopening food sales in that area as well. And a Greek-owned cargo ship was hit by twin missile attacks off of Yemen. And the Houthis claim to have targeted 6 ships in 3 seas. So definitely looks like the ships attacked by the Yemen's Houthi rebels was full of grain bound for Iran. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing as well. And China's Xi Jinping is calling for a peace conference and justice over war in Gaza. So definitely it looks like that is something that he is pledging. He's pledging more Gaza aid and talks trade at a summit with Arab leaders. So China is currently hosting the China Arab State Cooperation Forum. So that is something that is going on. And China's Xi has reiterated his call for a Palestinian state at the summit with the Arab leaders and all along those lines. And I do know that I believe there's a World Summit. I think it's 80 countries, if I remember what Sasha said along those lines, that is going to be conducted in Switzerland. I believe that's in the month of June. That'll be dealing with trying to come up with some sort of solution to the Ukraine Russia war as well. But definitely that is something that folks will be paying attention to, and how Switzerland goes into that discussion. And like I said, I think 80 countries have been invited, and we'll see what kind of moves they can make in the area of peace and all along those lines. I do understand that Russia wasn't invited at all. So definitely we'll see how folks react to that particular summit as well. But I know folks will be paying attention to China's Xi and what he's doing also. And in an unusual move, North Korea fired off a barrage of at least 10 ballistic missiles and all in that space. So they fired a volley of short range ballistic missiles. And I think that I understood that they had also done some trash dumping as well. So apparently they had done some dumping of trash. I believe that was North Korea to South Korea, not the other way around. But definitely it'll be interesting to see, because now we're having trash wars as well, as they were dumping some trash in that area and all along those lines. And Spain's parliament has given final approval to the amnesty law for Catalina's separatists. So Spain has approved that amnesty law on the 27 Catalan independence referendum. So definitely it'll be interesting how that all plays out as well. And 2 more U.S. officials have resigned over Biden administration's position on the Gaza war. So it looks like some State Department officials have resigned after U.S. has claimed that Israel is not obstructing aid to Gaza. So definitely it looks like some ex-Biden staffers that say people are fed up at the White House. So maybe there's some tension going there in the White House, not just about that particular situation, but other things that are taking place as well. And maybe that's part of the reason that Biden wants to have this debate in June, which actually that'll be just in a matter of weeks. So we'll see what goes on in that space. And apparently Biden's black African American voters' troubles are setting off alarm bells, because apparently recently Biden told African American voters that Trump wanted to tear gas them during peaceful George Floyd protests. And apparently he's attempting to court the African American voters in Philadelphia. So definitely I think both him and Kamala Harris were in that particular area. And apparently a far-right challenge to the GOP incumbent in Texas highlights a growing rift within that party. So it looks like there might be some rifts into what's going on and who's in control of the GOP party, because apparently in the Texas GOP, which is at war with itself, the hard right is gaining. And U.S. Representative Tony Gonzalez has declared a victory in a GOP runoff. So definitely we're seeing a lot of things going on in that space. And a judge has ruled that duct tape found on Lacey Peterson can be retested as Scott Peterson seeks a new murder trial. So the judge has largely denied Scott Peterson's DNA testing request in bid to prove his innocence, but apparently they're going to let the duct tape be tested and all in that space. And a U.S. district judge, Larry Hicks, was killed by a car collision outside of the court in Nevada. So definitely, we'll see what's going on in that space. And apparently, there are some experts that are questioning one of our Supreme Court judges, that being Alito, for his failure to recuse himself in the flag controversy. So definitely, there are some folks that had wanted him to recuse himself, and I know there have been people that have asked Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from some cases as well, but we'll see what happens in that space. And in Seattle, the Seattle police chief has been dismissed from a top job amid discrimination and harassment charges. So it looks like he has been ousted as the police chief amid some of those accusations and all along those lines. And apparently at Wayne State University in Detroit, police have dismantled a pro-Palestinian camp. And definitely that'll be interesting what goes on in that space. And definitely looks like folks are looking at that as well, because safety concerns prompted Wayne State University to continue remote learning for the third straight day. And there's another trial going on, Senator Bob Menendez bribery trial. So prosecutors are highlighting his wife in this particular charge, and a man accused of bribing Senator Menendez had to keep Nadine happy, according to trial testimony. So definitely there's another trial going on as well. And apparently cybercrime is big in the news, as well as sports cars and millions of dollars were seized in a recent bust and everything. So it looks like there's been a recent bust in that space, and it does look like cybercrime is a major issue as well. So like I said, going to bring in my folks and all along those lines and see what they've got to say. We were going to have a guest, but she had some schedule conflict, so she was not able to make it this particular time. And all along those lines, they were actually coming, I believe, from India, if I remember correctly. But like they said, they did send me a note that they couldn't make it, and all along those lines. So like I said, we've got a number of folks that are joining me. I see I've got Rick here, and we've got other folks that will be joining the conversation as well, and all along those lines. So how are you doing, Rick? How are things going in your neck of the woods, and what do you think about this whole cybercrime thing and all along those lines? Because apparently cybercrime is a big deal, and apparently they were busted with cybercrime.
Well, I mean, yeah, like regular crime is down because like nobody carries cash, and yeah, if you need to make a big score, you got to do it in the electronic realm.
Yep, that sounds like it. Hey, Jacoby, I know Jacoby's in that space as well. What I mean, definitely in the e-game space and everything. But what's your thoughts? Because I did see that was a news story. Was apparently there was a big bust, and it was an international bust where they got all kinds of sports cars and millions of dollars in this bus. And apparently the DOG is charging Chinese nationals with operating the world's largest botnet that stole apparently 5.9 billion in COVID relief funds. So what's our thoughts about cybercrime and the fact that they're going after these cyber criminals?
I mean, cybercrime is huge. Cybercrime has always been there. It's been going on for a long time. The the antivirus software, and all the other things. Yeah, you got to stay up to date on those things because
Well, or you could just buy Nvidia stock, which is a criminal in of itself, and sell covered calls against Nvidia stock and make a fortune. Oh, that's what Sasha does. I'm sorry. Oh, then it's not a crime because that's legal. So
that's legal.
Yeah, you can listen to Sasha and make millions and do it legally, or you can engage in cybercrime. Your choice. There we go.
So, along those lines and everything. So I know he was going to tell us about it yesterday, but we didn't get to it. How is NVIDIA doing? I know that, like you said, Sasha seems to be making a killing on that and all along those lines. So how is NVIDIA doing, and will NVIDIA continue to do well in your opinion?
In my opinion, is that NVIDIA will do well. It will have its ebbs and flows. It may go down slightly, it may go higher. But in my strategy, I'm not making money on NVIDIA. Well, I do. It's like a byproduct. My main source of profits is options that I'm selling, both covered calls and cash secured puts on NVIDIA. And the premiums there are enormous, second to none. There's nothing even close comes to that. And I'm just wondering, people who are buying from me these options, they are losing tons of money. And it seems to me that it's kind of automated trading by market makers. And they're not human beings really, because they don't care. They have to fill your order and provide market for this. For example, like I sold recently 1200 covered call on NVIDIA March 25. So I'm willing. So what kind of person on the other end would make such a transaction? And from what I understand, there is no real person who could do it. Only a computerized type of market maker who has to provide the bids and asks, and he will be just filled, and there are no consequences. Nobody's going to cry or quit everything, whatever he's doing, or so on. It's just part of that doing business. I don't know how long it's going to work like that, but while it's working, you must use it.
Sounds like a good plan to me, and everything I think she kills with it as well. And I was just wondering, because like I said, we've been talking about it for a while, this notion of the trial that is going on here, and all along those lines, it is day 2 of deliberations, and I did see that they wanted some testimony read back to them on yesterday, and all along those lines. And apparently, as I stated, because I was watching it on a video yesterday, even Trump himself is saying that he might be found guilty, and that Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges if she was still alive, and all along those lines. So I was just wondering, from your perspective, as somebody that travels around the world, studies different news items and different news outlets and everything, and definitely follows how things are covered in Australia, how are they taking this particular trial, and do they think that there is any chance whatsoever that former President Trump will be convicted, or how is the analysis from what you are seeing? Shaquille.
He's froze.
Shaquille is frozen.
There he
Oh, there you
goes.
go.
So I had a conversation with Nick the other day, a video conference with him, and ever since my computer stopped working, so I think my computer might be allergic to Nicholas. That might be the problem. I'm just having all sorts of technical issues at the moment, so sorry if I'm coming in and out. I think you're asking me something about the Trump trial, but I didn't quite catch the question. I'm sorry.
I was asking you, what kind of reaction are you getting when you are seeing the news as it's reported in Australia, and just the news in some of the other parts of the world that you are engaged with? Because I know that it's a big news here in the United States, but I was wondering how it's being handled and seen in other parts of the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, from outside of the United States, I think for most people who perhaps don't understand the US as well as perhaps I would, it's difficult to actually understand what he's being charged with, like what the crime actually is. What we're saying is you've got the president in one party and the former president of another party being prosecuted in a place which is heavily slanted to the party that's currently in control. That seems interesting. And then you add in, porn star revelations and, sessions of spanking and all this sort of stuff. It's, it certainly is interesting to watch. I think from the analysis that was being given out by everybody, including left-wing media outlets, it looked like he was heading for an acquittal, that it would be very difficult to overcome, reasonable doubt. But from the way that the judge has instructed the jury, I don't know, it seems strange. It's like you don't need a unanimous verdict. You don't even have to agree on what he did, just as long as all 12 of you agree that he did something, even if you don't all agree on the same something. That seems like a bizarre way of doing things. And from my understanding of the legal system, it seems like something that would be overturned on appeal immediately if he was convicted. But it'll certainly be interesting to see, and I'd be very interested to see how long this actually takes for the jury to come back.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes. And like I said, I did see Rick's got his hands up, but I was surprised that he made his comparison to Mother Teresa because he apparently said, and it was after coming out of the courtroom, that not even Mother Teresa herself could beat those charges. And I have seen some very interesting social media posts that have actually kind of even gone after Mother Teresa and some of her own history and all along those lines. And I do not claim to know everything about Mother Teresa, but there have been some people that have talked about the negative side of that particular lady, who I think may even be a saint now and everything along those lines. But there was some talk about some of the things that she did with some of the things in slums and all along those lines. But I don't know enough of that. You know,
I think Mother Teresa, was a very wonderful and dedicated person. That there is some criticism of her religious beliefs where she didn't. She wouldn't hand out, condoms and things like that. I'm sure that nobody can live through life without being somewhat controversial or divisive. But I don't really think there's much of a comparison between, a property developing billionaire from New York and Mother Teresa. It really isn't a comparison that I can find.
Yeah.
So Trump is being charged with a crime in the commission of another crime, and it's the background crime that they don't have to be unanimous about. For instance, say you work for a mobster and he hands you a gun. He says, "This gun, I did some bad stuff with this gun. Get rid of it." You get rid of it. You get charged with getting rid of the gun. And the jury doesn't have to agree about, you're charged with dumping the gun, but the jury doesn't have to agree about what the mobster did with that gun, as long as the mobster, they agree that he committed a crime with the gun. It could have been murder, it could have been robbery, but you're not charged with those crimes. You're charged with just disposing of the gun. So,
yeah, but I don't think it's quite as simple as that. I mean, that would be either conspiracy or like a RICO violation or something like that. I mean, here the allegation is that he committed a misdemeanor to cover up another misdemeanor. And then they've added in that there was a federal charge that he was really that he was really committing, which was the election interference. The problem with that is that New York has no jurisdiction over that. So they're prosecuting misdemeanors by tying it to this federal offense that the federal government has refused to prosecute him for. And even on that offense itself, even if you were to assume that he actually knew and instructed Cohen to make this payment to Stormy Daniels, even if you think that that's actually true, for the underlying charge to be made out, from what I understand, he would actually have to know that was an election interference. Now, he was a pretty new politician. He's not a lawyer. So is covering up something, or is trying to pay to buy a story or to quash a story, something that is that rises to election interference. I mean, politicians do that. They try to make it more cloudy information about things that could make them look bad in an election campaign. And especially, if I can just say, in US politics, because what you guys do
here, until Shaquille unfreezes.
Yeah, Shaquille froze there for it.
Here's a fun bit of background I don't think the jury got. So Trump is accused by the prosecution of writing, I think, a dozen checks to Cohen for $35,000 each to pay him back for paying off Stormy Daniels. And the defense is saying that he just signs checks. He doesn't care. He doesn't know what the checks were really for. In the 80s, there was a magazine called Spy Magazine that spent a lot of time making fun of New York celebrities and mostly Donald Trump. And Spy Magazine sent checks that were increasingly small amounts to see how penny pinching and greedy celebrities were. And Trump won because they'd send him a check for like $1.20. And he'd sign and cash that, then 60 cents. Then Trump was the only celebrity who signed and cashed a check for 2 cents. So he probably knows what a check for $35,000 is going for.
Isn't
You-
this a similar thing to what John Edwards did?
Oh, I got a check here that I still haven't cashed from 2 years ago sitting on my desk, and that's for $1,400. So I don't know how quickly I'd be running down the cashier $1.20.
So with the hush money case, isn't this similar to what John Edwards did with his hush money? Because he basically paid to cover his trails. He had to pay someone off. Well, paid the lady he got pregnant off, something like that. It was basically it was essentially the same thing. And Edwards lost his case for that. And I don't understand why it's that hard to understand this case, that it was paying hush money to cover up an election issue. And he had fudged the numbers on his books to cover that issue. So basically it's illegal, not only in that in that campaign finance situation where, he's fudging the numbers, which he should have recorded it as a campaign donation, but he didn't. He fudged the numbers and hid it. So basically he's covering up something to cover up something else.
Hey, can you tell me how much of the
fudge? I mean, I hear fudge all the time, but talk to me. Tell me what the fudge was.
He didn't. So he was supposed to claim it as a campaign donation. He did not.
That's the allegation. Show me what the fudge was.
He did not claim it as a campaign donation.
I know that,
but it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more complicated than just that.
He changed everything, but the thing is, I've seen no evidence that he's done any of that. And
no,
I don't see
literally.
It was supposed the allegation. They're saying if I go pay off a prostitute and I'm running for election, I got to report it as a campaign contribution.
The amount of money that he paid to Cohen, he was supposed to do that as a campaign donation. That was the flaw there.
When you go see a prostitute, and
it doesn't matter about that. You're throwing in buzzwords. He did not claim what it was supposed to be claimed as a campaign donation.
Because
Nick, you know this legally, and you understand this legally. He did not. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be written as a campaign donation, and he did not write it as a campaign donation.
He's walking, baby. They've already delivered for a day. He's walking. Say goodbye to this case.
I mean, in all honesty, I don't think he'll get acquittal. It'll be more so a hung jury than an acquittal.
A mistrial because what happens is I can see. Remember, we're talking about a large jury. You're talking about like 12 people. Getting 12 people to agree on something unanimously, even if it's how tiddlywinks are played, can be really difficult. So the odds of it being a hung jury,
that it's gonna. I agree that it's gonna be a hung jury. I don't know what the argument there is. But I'm just pointing out the fact that he was supposed to report it as this, and he did not. He reported it as something else.
That the issue that you're bringing up, the statute of limitations has run out on that, even if it were true. What they've done is they've actually turned that into that he did that in order to commit another federal offence, which was the campaign the financing violation. And in order to prove that, you've got to prove that he knew that. Now, given that he was being given advice from lawyers, I think it would be very difficult for 12 people or for anybody to actually come to that conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a really high standard. You might think that he did it. You might think it's obvious that he would have done it. But you have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very, very difficult standard to make.
Listen, both you and Nick. We already agree that it's going to be a hung jury. So I don't know why you keep bringing that portion up, saying that, it's hard for 12 people. We already agree on that. What's the argument there? I don't know. But what I'm pointing out is the fact that we know what the case is, and throwing in the grayishness, there's a little confusion here and there for some, but we know what the case is, so we can be a little bit more explicit and understand what that case is.
We're pointing out why a jury and why people around the world, which was the original question that was asked to me, would find this process somewhat bewildering. We're pointing that out, and again, why we don't think that the jury will come back and find beyond a reasonable doubt, to which you're responding with, well, Trump did these things. It's clear that he did these things. Well, no, it's not clear that he did those things, actually. And that's the reason why, you're looking at potentially an acquittal or a hung jury.
No, it will be a hung jury, because it comes down to where everybody's confused is the battle between Cohen and Trump. And the issue, this is the thing that gets me about even thinking outside of, even the court case. The fact that Trump is running a business that only has very few people in the business, and he is being not only, he supposedly hires the best people, and this is his hitman, but yet he is unable to maintain control of his own business or understand what is going on under his own nose in a very small company.
I've got absolutely no idea about every single payment that the companies that I run make, Jacoby. I've got no idea what they all are.
Wait, Shaq. You just legitimately said that you do not know where money is going outside of your business?
Not every single payment, no. I have monthly and quarterly meetings with
$20,000.
Can I answer, or do you want to just make those surprised? No, Jacoby, I wouldn't know where every $120,000 payment that I make is. Can I finish? How I run my business wouldn't affect in any way your experience dealing with me as a client, okay? I don't see. You obviously don't want to have the answer, because that was my fourth time at trying to answer it. So that's fine, Jacoby. As usual, you're right. Everybody else is incorrect.
Sasha, do you know where Sasha, when you do your stocks, do you know where your money goes?
My money, they're going to me.
If you have to pay out,
it's not 120, it's 420. It was 12 checks times $35,000. One more thing is the betting markets still have, they believe that Trump will be found guilty, that they're at negative 275, which means they think there's about a 70% chance that a jury returns, a guilty verdict on at least one charge.
Well, the problem I have with the case is what Shaquille just brought up, which is pretty important. Okay, he had a lawyer involved who was licensed at the time. And if it was supposed to be reported as a campaign contribution, he certainly had a duty to say something, say, look, this is going to be reported. And he didn't. In a lot of cases, these clients, they do rely on counsel. I'm shocked, Shaquille, that the attorneys who are defending the case didn't bring that up as an issue, because that is
they did object a number of times. But as I was trying to say before, when I sign off on payments, right? But when I sign off on payments, they normally I sign off on them in batches. Now I'm going to have a monthly or a quarterly meeting with the accountants and with the tax advisors and all of that sort of stuff to make sure that we're in compliance. But I'm not going to look at every single external payment. Okay, that's what I've got people to do that for me. So I can say, look, are we spending too much money here, or is it what's happening with this and stuff? And if you're running a business like his, it might be a relatively small amount of people that are involved, at the heart of that business in what's described as a relatively small office. But he would have thousands of contractors, especially in the property game. You've got heaps of different contractors and heaps of different invoices that come through. You rely on other people for that advice.
Not this random 1,000-person contractor. He is legitimately called his hitman, fixer, and everything by Trump's personal attorney. So you're saying to me
he's using slang,
that Trump does not have any control or anything around his personal attorney that is close by him, spending $500,000.
If you're the attorney on the case and you're handling the finances, and you know or should have known because you're a lawyer,
man who has his hands controlling everything, don't you have a duty, everything, kicking people off set? You're saying that he doesn't control his own.
Not a lawyer. Your client Trump is not a lawyer, my friend. At the end of the
Yeah, and
day,
Trump is the one who's
lawyer
actually
who should have
dictating what to do to
That's
everybody
right.
he deals with.
Well, the thing is,
And
Trump,
so you're
rightfully-
saying that the
Trump, right or
man
wrong,
does
should
not
be
dictate
convicted. If he
to
was, he'll
a
probably be
lawyer
overturned
his
on
So,
personal
Miss Obi, hold on a second. I think Rick had a
That is
question.
crazy.
I'm
That
just
is
I'm
crazy.
wondering if we should talk about something else, since we'll find out soon enough what the jury
Yes.
thinks.
That's true.
Like
That's
we
very
have
much true and
lots of
everything.
like starvation.
But I did have a
rockets
question based on
from,
something Shaquille said and that Jacoby brought up, because part of what this conversation has been about is the political kind of nuance of what's going on. Because as I think Shaquille said, and it's a truism, is that he is being tried in a largely Democratic area, and of course he is definitely an avid Republican, and all along those lines, at least he is now, because I think he switched parties a couple of times as well, meaning Trump and all in that space. But in the Edwards case, which you used, which was a North Carolina case, I want to say that it was all Democratic situation, because I think Edwards was a Democrat and most of the controlling courts at that time were Democratic as well. So I would say that that was probably a difference versus the case now, because it is a one that where some of the political maneuvering is taking place as well. So I don't know if
Well, I think when it comes to a presidential election, I'm not sure if you guys heard what I said when my computer crashed again, but the US political process, especially when it comes to presidential elections, is brutal. I mean, I don't know anybody in their right mind that would ever want to run for president of the United States. It's brutal, even for people that are relatively popular. And that's something that we are not really used to outside of the United States. You don't see quite so much where they just go after you for just everything, and they try to dig up stuff and, something that you said in college, 30 years ago and stuff like that. That's just not quite how we do things elsewhere. And I think if I can relate it back to some issues that we've seen in Australia in what's been a very turbulent time in Australian politics, we've seen people that have been accused of using party money or government money to get involved in illicit activity and, hang around with hookers and all sorts of, sexual allegations and all that sort of stuff. But it gets handled in a non-partisan way. And normally the political party that person is a part of will actually kick them out of the party as well. But see, that doesn't happen in America because the party can't remove the president. See, over here in Australia and in the UK, etc., the prime minister isn't directly elected. So you actually elect the party. The party chooses the leader of that party. Totally different in the US. So, as I said, it just looks like something that it seems odd. It raises eyebrows. It makes you think, well, is this an issue? And the other thing is that because of how many charges that Trump's up on, I know a lot of people who are really anti-Trump, really what I'd consider to be quite left, that will say to me, gee, it kind of seems like they're just going after him. And some of the things like the financing thing, there's just been convicted of where he is alleged to have overinflated the value of property so he could secure a more favorable loan from the bank. Well, I mean, I would say that almost everybody does that, right? Unless you're going for if you're trying to get a home loan or something, you want the bank to try to give you as much credit against your home as you possibly could if you've got a pool of assets.
The valuation is every day, Shaquille, every day.
Exactly.
And
now we're okay.
And this is something that when I deal with financiers or when people come to us to arrange financing against something, we are well aware that we need to check this out ourselves if we have any concerns. One of the things that we'll actually check out is not just the valuation, but what would happen to that valuation if we had to liquidate the asset, especially if it's not a very liquid asset, like property will take a little while to sell. So, there's all those sorts of considerations. I just feel like a lot of people around the world are looking at America and going, geez, guys, what are you guys doing?
That had to be the most bogus trial I've ever seen in my
Why?
life. First of all, it was a bench trial, not a jury trial. Number two, if you look how bogus it was, there are no damages. Nobody was damaged in that case. Number three, he had a disclaimer in there saying, this is my opinion. His opinion, he could say Mar-a-Lago is worth $1 billion. And he actually said close to that. And
Again,
for somebody, maybe it is.
we
You
on
know,
Pod TV are now advocating it's okay to break the law.
No,
Jacoby,
no,
Jacoby, you always seem to do this, right? We're having a conversation about the issues surrounding this Trump thing.
You know,
You have a very strong opinion, a very strong
I'm just
anti-Trump
wondering,
opinion,
is it a
and
law?
your response
Is
to
it
everybody
a
who has
law
an opinion
in New
different to
York
yours
State?
is to attack them for
Did
being a
he
Trump
break
supporter
a law
or attack them for advocating for breaking the law.
Is that what he did? Did he break a law in New York State?
No,
Yes, he did. The law is on the books, and now we're advocating it's okay because Trump did it.
No. You don't understand, counselor. It was one judge's opinion that he broke the law. Wait till it goes
You
on.
just said he broke the
It'll be
law.
reversed. Hey, what's the odds of this being reversed? Oh, Rick,
Did you not say that he's an idiot because he broke the law? Yes.
No.
So you admit that he broke the law.
Shaquille is right about the brutality of running for president and even being president. They first started doing presidential approval polling 80 years ago with FDR. And the approval of every president has since then has gone down as we get more and more divided and pissed at each other. So, you know, even with Obama, who was, you know, widely respected and pretty clean, you know, his approval rating was way lower than President of Nixon and, you know, all the presidents of the 70s, 80s, 90s, because we were just angrier with each other. And elections go on for 2 years. In other countries like France, the election is 6 weeks, and that's it.
Well, but look at India. India just has this election that's going on now, and it looks like it's taken forever and a day, but that's a very big country that you're trying to do that election at and all along those lines. And I know Shaquille would have a better understanding than other people, like Steve, if he was here, would have a better understanding than I do. But I do know it's a long election, just like the one in South Africa, which apparently is about to be a switch in party politics as well and everything. But I did have a question about family members as well, because one of the things that I saw recently, and I don't know if y'all had seen it, I think I had mentioned it to Jacoby, and I might have mentioned to Nick off air and everything, but apparently there is some things that are going on about Byron Trump, and apparently Byron Trump has pushed back to some degree on his dad and everything, because he even has said, not so much in this trial, but in other things, that he didn't think he won the debate. So he apparently chastised him the last time that they debated him and Biden, and when that would have been like when he was before graduation and everything. So he would have been a preteen and all along those lines. And apparently they don't see eye to eye on a number of other things. They're saying that he and Tiffany may be the ones that are least in the pocket of family support and everything along those lines. So I just wonder your take on that, because I have seen a couple of things where Byron apparently is being a typical teenager and is rebelling against his own dad and everything.
What a surprise. I mean,
we
you know,
know nothing about Barron except that he's 6'7". You know, they've really done a really good job. I guess probably Melania has done of keeping him out of the public eye, as it should be. Presidential kids shouldn't be fair game. They made fun of how Amy Carter looked. They ripped on you know the Obama kids. It's sleazy and
they ripped on the Bush kids as well. Let's put the Republicans in there.
Yeah,
while you're at it.
Once the parents are in the sewer, they bring all the kids into the sewer with them.
But you know what? Look, I actually agree that kids should be in some part off limits. However, you know, cry me a river, because these kids are geniuses. Every single child of a politician is the brightest, smartest, most amazing kid that you've ever seen. You know how we know that? Because by some miraculous coincidence, every single one of them, even if their parents are dumbasses, managed to get into the top Ivy League schools. But let's take Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea Clinton has been a top investigative reporter. She's worked for a hedge fund. She's been vice president of a bank. I mean, this girl has achieved things that would make the rest of us just blush. She's incredible. And it's just by pure coincidence that she's got an IQ rate that's like 20 times higher than Rick's, obviously, and substantially higher than both her parents. Just don't know how that happened, but just incredible.
Boy,
Kids are able to pull off.
Well, like I said, I was interested when I saw that article.
Now,
That was
welcome to legacy admissions, by the way.
All right, but like I think all the presidential kids, Republican.
No, Nick, it's not legacy admissions a lot of the times. A lot of the time these kids are going to universities that their parents didn't go to.
But
okay,
they've
sure.
acquitted themselves all pretty well. I as a group of people, when you look at presidential siblings, there's a lot of screw ups among those people. Presidential kids, the kids turn out pretty well. The worst that like the Obama kids do is they smoke cigarettes and they smoke some pot. But it's.
Oh, hang on, isn't pot legal in Illinois? So that's not a crime. Smoking cigarettes is legal. So what's the issue?
Nothing. I'm just saying that they screw up less than presidential siblings, like Jimmy Carter's brother.
Yeah, Billy. You're talking about Billy Carter, who was definitely a total mess up and everything. He was definitely up there, and there was a couple of other ones that definitely messed up as well. And then we've got a few more minutes, but I do have a question for Jacoby that I know Shaquille's going to love as well and everything, and even Nick. But it does seem like the current administration is in some deep trouble with some key parts of their voting bloc and everything. So what can Biden do? Because apparently Biden is going after the African-American vote by talking about the things that Trump did that was wrong. And there are a number of young people that are like basically either saying that they're going to be what I'm calling the sit on the hand gang, or they are not going to vote at all. Or in some cases, they're even choosing to vote for Trump. So it does seem like there is trouble among the young people as well, in terms of that being a part of the bloc that has historically been very much democratic and everything. So what is going to go in that space? And ironically, some of the issues that are the reasons that the young people are upset are issues that a lot of the older folks are very much set in their ways about, because I do know that part of it is around both the Ukraine war as well as what's going on in Israel and Palestine. But how can Biden win back these folks that are these blocks and everything?
On the one hand, it's still more than 5 months until the election. And in most presidential cycles, we wouldn't even know who the nominees were going to be yet. This is really early to do the push. On the other hand, I want Biden's, as a lib, I want Biden's campaign people to be more sharky and more on leaning forward. I feel like I want more of like Obama's campaign people seemed really sharp. And I don't see any sharpness yet from Biden's people.
Yeah, I think the Republican era did a good job.
Yes, he has to get off the idea of, hey, Trump is bad, because a lot in the minority community are really tired of hearing that. And he cannot do like Trump, because Trump is doing some very embarrassing racist pandering, from bringing the two rappers on the stage, which the two rappers were convicted of murder just last year, and thinking that was going to be the thing, selling gold shoes, talking about he wants to get gold teeth. That's pandering. That's racist pandering. We don't want to get into that. What he needs to do is actually sit down with different actual leaders in the community. He needs to go ahead and start really talking about what's going on in Israel and Gaza, because that's what hits home with a lot of people in the African American community, talking about what's going on in Palestine and what's going on in Gaza. That's where he's losing a lot of the actual support, is because a lot of the young people are really upset and irate and see what's happening in Palestine and see it as a genocide, and not actually, and we're extremely offended watching Nikki Haley sign a bomb and talking about finish the job, and that was really offensive. So he should capitalize off of basically talking to community leaders, really leaning into, okay, this is what I need to work on. These are ideas that you have. Let's build a coalition in the Black community, and really put together a kind of my brother's keeper type push in the African American community, and actually hit young Black people, reach them where they are, and talk about what's going on in from gun violence on, but really talk to the leaders, the younger leaders, not the older ones. Talk to the younger leaders, because the old Black community is behind Biden. The young Black community is what's starting to sway some, and really build a coalition around those Black leaders, and build a coalition that those Black leaders can actually talk to actually look like, well, at least put together something that feels like it's dedicated directly to the Black community. Like, I think he did a great job with the HBCU stuff, but the problem is that's getting muddled. So he needs to bring that to the forefront. These are the things that I'm doing. This is what I'm working on. This is how I'm going to advance the Black community in this area, and so on and so forth. And that would get the Black community back more on his side, especially the younger Black community moving towards him, not talking about Trump and what Trump is doing and all the bad stuff.
Speaking of Trump and all along those lines, and other people may want to jump on this conversation as well, but apparently there is a major political leader that is putting themselves in line to be an advisor. And I know that some people on this network like him, some people don't like him and everything, but apparently there is Trump talks with the Tesla CEO, Elon Musk, and there's even talk of him being a political a policy advisor if he wins the election. So maybe that means we're going to get more EVs and more Tesla cars and all along those lines. So I'm not sure which department he will be working in and all along those lines, but there is some serious talk of him being a leader in that space. So what is our thoughts around this notion that Elon Musk may become a leader and even a policy advisor should Trump win the election and everything?
As a liberal, one of the things that I very much appreciate about Trump is he sticks to his little circle of people. Like, he doesn't expand his Venn diagrams. He appeals to his people. And so Elon Musk, if you look at Twitter, he fits solidly into the Joe Rogan right-leaning, there's the Trump, if he were smart, Trump could have governed from the center. Trump doesn't really care about a lot of these issues. And if he'd had somebody on his staff who could convince him, well, most people in America think this way, so you should think this way. Trump doesn't do that. Elon Musk is an increasingly right-leaning dude. Him embracing Trump doesn't win him any further voters.
What's your thoughts, Shaquille and Nick, this notion of Elon Musk being up there as an advisor to Trump?
Well, I think Elon Musk is an opportunist. I mean, if you look at what he's done, he's gotten, he'll go any way who will give him money. He got Joe Biden to fund his stupid charging station all up and down America. He got Joe Biden to give him money for his crazy space exploration. So whoever wins, Elon Musk will be in Washington, D.C., trying to get into their pocketbooks so that he can get his big bonus, which he's trying to get, which is over $50 billion, which was denied by the Delaware Chancery Court. So I think Elon Musk will go whoever wins. I don't think he really cares. Elon Musk doesn't care as long as the winner backs what he's doing to make him richer than, Croatius. I mean, he's just an unbelievable opportunist, Elon Musk. And he's a gambler.
All right, Musk, you can hold on. Let me, Musk,
baby. He's like Shaquille. He'll go all in. He's like a Jeopardy.
You can say that the charging stations. Hold on. You can say the charging stations are a boondoggle. But Musk has thrown more than 6,000 satellites into orbit. His company is really, really good.
Yeah, funded by the debt of the American taxpayer. Rick.
That's
the thing that is just obnoxious about these wealthy people. And I don't know why you liberals keep defending wealthy people like Elon.
I'm not defending. I think
just
all in, baby. He's like Jim.
And this is the big problem that I think.
The thing with the electronic stations, if we are going to go to EVs, we do need an infrastructure. And currently, Tesla is the leader in the market in the EV infrastructure right now or in the US at least, because Tesla isn't even the number one EV maker across the globe. That is a Chinese company. And that Chinese company is actually doing really well. But Tesla in the US is that leading EV maker, and their actual infrastructure is the best right now in the US. So
Good, then they
I
can pay for
understand the actual the technology and the push to, okay, well, you understand this technology. This is what happened with SpaceX, because SpaceX, honestly, when we started taking away money out of NASA and actually stopped funding a lot of the space technology and all these other programs, that's when the private entities, Nick, that's your whole thing. The capitalist market jumped into play, and those private entities like SpaceX and even Jeff Bezos has his, the guy from Virgin has his. There are these other companies that have jumped into that space field and tried to fill that void. It's just that SpaceX actually had the best technology and actually the best infrastructure.
So I think this is where the problem, the underlying problem lies.
So what the big thing is that if we're going to cut funding from particular areas, those things are going to get filled by those opportunistic companies. And it's not that Elon Musk created SpaceX or Elon Musk created Tesla. He bought into these companies, and actually those companies did really well based off of not only the already in place infrastructure, but Elon Musk right now is taking down Twitter and taking down, honestly, Tesla, because of how he's handling the layoffs, trying to get himself more money.
Here's a fun thing I just looked up. You're twice as likely to get killed by an electric vehicle as by a gas-powered vehicle, because they don't make noise, and because every pedestrians don't pay attention to where they are anymore. So,
I don't give a rat's rear if you buy an EV or you buy a gas power. Here's what I do give a rat's rear about, and this is where Elon Musk plays the political game perfectly. You realize the Democrats, there's no dollar that isn't good unless it's spent. So he goes to Washington, hey, buy me all these EV stations. Hey, give me all this money for and Joe
that's
Biden
why he was going to move his plant to Texas.
He writes the check. I bet Joe Biden doesn't even know where the money goes. Because he writes checks like a drunken sailor. The problem is it's coming out of everybody here's pocket except Shaquille and Sasha, because they don't live in the United States. It's coming out of our pocket.
I think this comes to the heart.
We as Americans are getting screwed. We're getting screwed by Elon Musk.
Tesla was proposed to do to make a unified charger systems that would be good not only for Tesla but any other electric vehicle, and that sounds as a reasonable plan. However, where he got resistance from getting the money to build all this network, he took Tesla out of the project and said, you know what? Tesla is no longer interested to pursue it. Let other electric car manufacturers, or whoever they are, the governments, whoever, I don't care anymore. You build these chargers because people will demand it. If they will have electric cars, never mind Tesla, but any electric car, they will need charging stations. And if you will not provide it, it will be a uproar of the population, because there will be more and more people who will own electric vehicles.
Good, and they can pay for
the thing with
it's not the
thing that Sasha points out is actually true.
Every wish that Elon Musk has, I'm sorry, we're not to go in debt to pay for Elon Musk's dream and his richness. And the thing is, so this is where the problem lies. I don't give a rat's rear if you want to buy an EV. I don't care what you guys think in California about EVs. The American government should not pay one dime.
So also one of the
can I go at any point? Given that the question was actually asked to me, by the way.
Shaquille.
So in relation to Elon Musk being an advisor to Donald Trump, and whether that's a good or a bad thing, I think there's a very big problem. At the heart of the problem, and I think what Trump represented back in 2016, was that a lot of people, to become very wealthy, the way to do it is not to actually come up with a great innovative idea, but it's actually to win government contracts. And I think that a lot of people feel, especially if they're working class and just sort of barely scraping by, feel as though the priorities of government are often not where they should be. If I'm struggling to put food on the table, if I've got to save up to buy my kids shoes and you're giving tens of billions of dollars to somebody who's already a billionaire to go on some fanciful project, that can be offensive to a lot of people. the core of the issue, I think, for Biden and coming up into his election and Trump coming up into his, is the two parties in most major countries of the world tend to help some people more than others. It's unavoidable, right? If you're a centre-right party, you tend to help centre-right interests more than you help centre-left interests. And if you're a centre-left party, the same thing's true in reverse. So I think that Trump's doing a pretty good job of going and into areas where he wouldn't ordinarily be particularly popular. Gavin Newsom, I think, did a great job of actually coming onto Fox and saying to Sean Hannity, all right, you want to interview me? I'm there. Biden hasn't been able to do that very well. He's not great at speaking in the first place, and he just hasn't really been able to do that. And so it looks like to a lot of people, and including people over here, when we see our Labor government, which is like the equivalent of the Democrats for the United States, putting things in that the rest of us are going, this doesn't make sense. What you're proposing to spend all this money on doesn't make sense. It's not working in other parts of the world. Why are you spending so many billions and billions of dollars on something when we're still really overcoming COVID? We've still, we've had those supply chain issues. We've had inflation. We've had all of that stuff. It doesn't make sense.
We're at time, so we have to go. We're at the hour, so we'll have to continue this tomorrow. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.